Hi, my name is Angelica Barrera, and this is
Lily.
She is my cousin. We've been cousins for 18 years. Okay, but seriously, so for our podcast, for this episode, we watched The Kids Are Not Alright, the mental health crisis affecting Latina teens. Us both being in that demographic, I felt this was the perfect, please don't mind the fire alarm, I'm sorry, the thing. Anyways, I felt like this was the perfect documentary for us to give our perspective on and share our experience as people, Latina, like young adults. So to kind of give a little context to what it was about quickly, it was focusing on some specific students and their experience with mental health, and through this program called SEED and how that's helped them, and kind of just diving in on their thought process through that, and getting the parents' perspective, and yeah, just focusing. There was mention of social media and things like that. So that's what we're going to be diving in on in today's episode, our own personal journeys with that. So I guess to kind of get started, social media wise, would you consider yourself an active user of social media?
Yes.
Really, like every day, or
yeah.
Every day?
Hours a day.
What apps do you
Majority. Really everything.
You have
Instagram,
everything?
Twitter, Snapchat.
Really?
Yeah. All of it.
Yeah, I'm definitely an active user. My watch time for each app is not good. But yeah, I don't have Snapchat or like Twitter, but I do have Instagram and TikTok, which is already a lot to begin with, because those apps are very consuming. You can get engrossed in them like really quickly, and it can become overwhelming. Yeah, so when did you first get those accounts?
I believe when I was really young.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think at the age where my mom didn't even know.
Mm-hmm.
I was too young. Probably like 12, 13.
Yeah. And yeah, because most apps, they require you to be 13 to do that, but I think for the most part, everyone just kind of goes over that and just lies about their age. Because I think when I first got Instagram, I was like 12 as well. Yeah, Instagram, and it was Musical.ly back then, but yeah, I was around 12 years old, so a year younger than I guess the required age limit, but yeah, pretty young considering the fact that what was on those social media platforms. So can you talk a little bit about your experience with those platforms? Experience with social media.
Okay, I was gonna say this because when I first got social media, I think I was really like, I was young. And this is at the time where people were doing like those, to be honest, to be rude and stuff like that. So people like, just like, oh, like I want one. People be like, oh, like to be rude, like your face is fat, like your eyebrows are too spread apart. And like that stuck with me. When someone said that your eyebrows are too separate, like that was probably years ago, like when I was in 6th grade, and that like stuck with me. And it's kind of like, dang, people just bring people down for fun now. Like,
were you posting on social media as well?
I not as much, but I would.
Yeah. Because when I remember I had it, I never posted on social media. I didn't post until like my sophomore year of high school, but I was actively on there. And I do remember, and like I never participated in the To Be Honest, but I do remember seeing students post it, and I'm like, oh my god, like they're really saying these things about these students, like these people. And I'm like, and then when, I don't know if you guys remember when there was this app called Savannah, or it was like an anonymous app where you could go and just leave anonymous comments and people would screenshot that. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
And when that was created, oh my gosh,
I think I had like the link in my bio.
Yeah. So you could literally have a link in your bio, and anybody could go on there, leave an anonymous comment about you, and then you can see it, but you'll never know who it is. And I remember people like saying the most rudest stuff, and I was like, oh my god, I can't imagine being that person. Yeah. And I'm sure most of them were trolling and things like that, but again, you never know, like that thing stuck with you. You don't know what your words, how your words affect people, whether you're, oh, it's just a joke or da-da-da-da. You just don't, you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you feel if you had, like, had gotten it at an older age, things would be different?
I feel like there's really ugly people everywhere you go. Mm-hmm. So no matter your age, like young or not, people are still gonna talk.
Mm. Yeah, so I feel like for me, I think
maybe I would have taken it better since I'm not so young and like I know, like, you know, but yeah, I think either way, regardless, people have something to say.
Yeah, my parents, in my household, it was never, no, you can't have this Instagram, da-da-da. It was just like, oh, I just got it. I didn't really have to ask for permission or anything. But I think for my personal house, like when I have a family, I don't think that I will let them get social media until, I don't know. It's hard because social media isn't always a bad thing. Social media can be good because that's how you find friends. That's how, like, you know, that's how so many people communicate. And I'm sure, who knows later on when we have kids, if that'll be the thing now. But in the moment, social media is one of the biggest ways that people communicate with each other. What I'm scared of is just the ugliest, what is on those apps and the ugliest thing people can say to, like, you can say anything and it's all at the tip of your fingers, and it takes 2 seconds to post, but it also takes 2 seconds to trigger somebody.
Exactly.
And like I said, you don't know what these words, how these words are affecting the people, again, whether you're joking or not. So for me, I wouldn't change the fact that I wouldn't change the age I had it. I think 12, it was okay. Because I didn't engage in it as much, I don't feel like I was affected nearly as much. I think it more I saw it more with the students around me. I saw it more with my friends. I remember seeing girls in class, like, become so overly obsessed over what was being said to them. And I just knew that, oh, I don't, like, that kind of scared me away from social media, which is why for the longest time, I really didn't utilize it, because I was like, if that's what they're experiencing, I definitely don't want to, like, post or anything, because what if someone starts talking about me, you know? In the future, I would be more conscious of the ages that my children would have it. So going off of kind of going away from social media, but staying on the topic of mental health, was that something that was talked about in your household?
I think it wasn't normalized for, like, you know, if I'd be home, like, in bed, like, at a young age, sad, my mom would be like, what are you sad for? Like, you're just a kid. Like, there's nothing to be sad for. Like, get up. Like, you know. And then it's kind of like you have to, like, swallow your feelings and, like, go on with your day, pretend like nothing's wrong, because, you know, no one really cares how you feel.
For me, I think if I had expressed it at a younger age, if I had expressed that I needed help, if I did feel like I needed help at a younger age, I think it would have been a little harder given our economics status at the time, because mental, like, therapy, it's expensive. Like, it's not easy to access, especially we had Medicaid, so, you know, it wasn't super accessible. So had I mentioned, if I had needed help before, I think it would have been a little harder, because I know my parents would have wanted to help me, but it was like, okay, but how? But as regards to if it was ever open or ever talked about, not necessarily directly, but I do know that I could have come to my parents with any concerns that I had. And I know now, I can say confidently now that if I were to come to them with any problems, I know that they would try their best, whatever that may look like, to help. Okay, so we are both first generation Latinas of our family. We're both attending college right now. So do you feel any pressure from that title of being a first generation like student?
Definitely. Yeah, I feel like I have to be successful or I won't, like, or I'm letting everyone down. Yeah, I feel like
yeah, I definitely get that, because for me, it's me and then my younger sister. So I feel that I have to
set an example.
I have to set an example for her. And in a way, without sounding, I don't know how to put this, but I think we can both say that we've kind of been the, I don't know how to say it, not the golden child, the role models for our siblings. I think both of us have been all of our lives. That everyone's kind of both, they've looked at us like the very, I don't know how to say it without sounding. We've both been the very accomplished one, and in plain, we've both just been very successful and accomplished a lot of things. So there's already that pressure alone, and then deciding to continue our education. It's like, okay, now what's next? But sometimes, what if we don't know what's next, and people are kind of waiting, you know, like, okay, so what are you gonna do next? You know, you already did this, so like. And sometimes it's like, okay, I don't really know what that looks like for me, but then you have that pressure, and even if they don't mean it, they might not even mean it that way. I think it's just sometimes the way that they express themselves and their care and their like voice, I guess their passion, sometimes it can be like, you know, but setting as there, I would say there's slightly a little pressure just on myself, because I want to make my parents proud for everything that they've worked for. I want them to know that that they didn't do a bad job, whether they think they could have done better, whether they think they could have done more for me. I want them to know that what they did was their very best. And it's a little bit on me to I just want them to know that, and so I always want to put my best effort, and ultimately I just want to be successful and make them proud, be successful and make them proud in that. So there's a little pressure, but I take that title with honor. Like, I will wear that, I will rep that. We are first generation. Like I will say it loud and proud. But without a doubt, there's a little pressure to that naturally. But yeah. So being a Latina woman, and maybe even when we were younger, were you ever discriminated against because of your race?
I don't.
Really?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I've always been proud of, you know. Your environment, were you the only Latina, or who were you mostly surrounded around? Where I was, it was really just me, you know, a bunch of Mexicans and African Americans, so it's kind of like, you know, we're the same people, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, nobody ever, I don't think nobody ever just, like, called us out or, like, said racist, you know, stuff. Yeah.
Same here. So, for most of my life, I grew up a majority with, like, African American. Even my elementary school, I was, like, one of, like, maybe 6, like, Hispanics there, and the rest were African American. And, I mean, they would say things like, oh, go back to Mexico or anything. But in my head, I never paid attention to it. Like, I was like, oh, okay. But that would be very few times. For the most part, it was like, oh, we were just students going to the same school. Like, it wasn't, anything. And then middle school, we both went to the same middle school, and we were the majority. So the whole school was Hispanic. So I didn't feel, I felt in place there. And then for high school, it was diverse, but it was, I would say, majority white. But again, I never really experienced any, like, I never felt discriminated against or anything. And I think also that has to do with a big part of just how I was raised and I guess how I view myself. But I do remember the first time when the first and only time that we were called a slur. It was on our way, my family and I don't know if you were there, on our way to Turner Falls, and this man, I guess, you remember?
Drove past the car.
Yes. So, okay, so I don't know what happened, but we were in line, this long line to get into this, like, waterfall place, and the other car's coming this way. I don't know what happened, but this Caucasian man drives past us, and can I say the word? Because I can say it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Or Mexican.
Right. So he drives past us, and he says, "Beaners." And that was the first, this was like 2 years ago. Yeah. That was the first time that I had ever been discriminated against. I had ever felt like, it was like the world had like uncovered my eyes. Like for that moment, I was like hyper aware of who I was, what I was in that moment. And I just remember being in shock. It wasn't so much oh my God, I can't believe he said that it was more of like that people view us like that, like people see us like that. And I don't know, I remember that moment. I think I'll always remember that moment, because like I said, it was just kind of like an eye-opener to people go through this every day. People are experiencing this, and I just experienced it for the first time, and I don't know, it was a very it was a culture shock, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just remember, like, I thought about it for the rest of the day, and I'm like, and I told my dad, I was like, did you just hear what he said? And he was like, yeah, but he's from Mexico. My mom is Mexican American, and that's a whole other thing. Like, I don't speak Spanish, and there's also that kind of like pressure to, oh, you're Latina, and you have to speak Spanish. And that pressure was never applied on me through my parents, but I just feel that pressure internally with like just other people, because
you kind of feel the embarrassment.
Yeah, I feel embarrassed because my parents speak it fluently. I just didn't pick it up, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's like, oh, you don't speak Spanish? Why are you here? Why are you in Spanish 1, but you're Mexican? You know, like. Yeah. And then also
kind of like a requirement.
Yeah, and then my dad just being from Mexico is like, and you really don't know Spanish. Like there's definitely, that's something that I've struggled with a little bit, just kind of. And even the very little Spanish that I do know, I don't attempt to speak it, because even today someone spoke to me in Spanish, and I think I could have given her the information she needed. I just was not confident enough to do that, because I was like what if I mess up? What if I sound like I don't know, like it's clear that I don't, it's not my native language or something, or it's clear that I don't know a lot. So I back away from it when I should confront it, and otherwise I won't ever learn. And so that's another thing that I kind of feel pressured by. But yeah, so that was one of the biggest moments for me, was when we were called that name. I was like, oh wow. Yeah, getting back to your relationship with social media now and everything that's going on, and like Kim Kardashian and Khloe Kardashian, them like face tuning pretty much like everything. Yeah, what is your relationship with that?
I feel like there's such a standard now to how girls are supposed to look. So I feel like there was a, I still do like compare myself to like other girls. I'm like, oh, like oh, I wish I looked like her. I wish my body was like her. It's like, oh, I need to get into the gym. So just like pressuring yourself from like, because everyone's easily influenced by what they see online. So it's kind of like, just makes you really insecure since there's such a standard of how we're supposed to be. Yeah, I think it brings you down a lot now. Like, social media is not, you know, it's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I guess for me, I think it's more of the fact that we're both very young, but then I also see people our age doing in movies and in going on these like being recognized, traveling, being recognized by the president and doing all these amazing things. And sometimes I take what I'm doing for granted, the work I'm doing, because I'm comparing myself to
what am I doing?
The wrong? Achievements that they're doing. Yeah, it's kind of like, what am I doing? Like, what can I be doing different? And I think that sometimes I sometimes neglect the fact that of what I'm doing in the moment is perfectly fine and good enough for the opportunities I've been given, if that makes sense. So I think sometimes I get caught up in it's like in a competition with I'm practically in a competition with myself, if I'm being honest. I'm not in competition with anyone because I want to see everyone succeed. But that in the back of my mind sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, they're 16 years old and they already got their master's degree, which is a very rare case. You know, it's not very often that you see that, but it's the fact that they just have the ability to do that. And I'm just like, well, what can I do to get there? Or people starting tech companies, or I don't know, just I sometimes get caught up in that. So when I do catch myself doing that, I just have to be like, hey, I think it's also natural to do that. It's natural to compare, but as long as you're able to be like, hey, okay, you had that thought, but let's, it's not real.
Yeah.
And let's, appreciate what you have. I think it's okay. Like I said, it's natural to do that, but as long as you have that relationship where you're able to control it, I think it's okay.
Yeah, I think that's why, they say everyone's journey is different. Like, we'll get there one day, but some people take longer than others. Like, you should never rush it because you'll miss what's happening right in front of you.
Yeah. What surprised me when I was reading the documentary, or when we were watching the documentary, I did not know that 1/3, there are more Latino women are 1/3 more likely to have suicide attempts than their white counterparts. That surprised me.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but after
then again, the households.
So like after watching it, it was kind of like their parents admitted that it was a taboo subject, and that it kind of took them seeing how bad for them to do something about it. And I think obviously that needs to change, but that's such a big thing to ask when it's practically rooted in the culture, to not talk about it, she's loca, she's just crazy, she's not like da 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 da, it's nothing, she's just da da da, so I don't know, it's a lot to ask when, like I said, when it's been rooted in the culture for years. But programs like SEED, kind of, where they are pushing that agenda where mental health is not, everybody has mental health. Like, if you have a brain, you have mental health, so it's not, I don't understand why it's such a taboo, it's why people treat it as a taboo subject, because people are going through things whether you know it or not, and
be nice to everyone.
Be nice, be nice. You literally never know what somebody is going through. But I don't know, I feel like I really loved like getting their perspective, because it was very raw, it was very real, And then what I also really enjoyed was getting the parents' perspective on it, which is it's not rare, but to have their honest thoughts on it, and them willingly saying, yeah, in our culture it's something that we don't talk about, but them being open to the SEED program and them allowing their children to go to that and pushing them towards resources is the step towards change. And having this conversation, having that documentary out, and is our little steps. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's those little things that matter towards making just the talk about mental health more open and not, like we said, such a taboo subject. So we're Latina women, we hear oh, she's too hairy, oh, she's too dark. Would that ever affect you?
Yes. I remember, someone saying the exact same thing, like, oh, like, your arms are too hairy. And I remember my mom always telling me, you don't shave your arms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't shave your arms.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, what am I supposed to do? My arms are hairy. Like, people are telling me my arms are hairy. Like, so what they said, like, had a toll on me, and I, would shave my arms. And then I guess when my mom found out, she kind of like, like, why do you listen to what people say? This is this, like, that's ugly, like, forget them. Like, now your arms are gonna grow back even hairier.
Oh, like, my gosh, yes.
Just because you listen to people, what they say, and it's like, okay. And then, like, the whole mustache thing, like, I would, get the razor, and she would, like, she could tell.
They always know. Moms always know.
Yeah, and she would be like, why would you do that?
So, yeah, she would just...
Yeah, and then, I guess we'd get good compliments, too. Like, oh, like, y'all hair always grows so fast. Like, your hair's so long and pretty. Like, you have good genes. Like,
Yeah.
all the good stuff.
So, do you still think about that now? Like...
not anymore. I feel like not that I don't care, but I just, like, it is what it is. Like,
yeah.
I feel like, if you still talk at this age, you're
immature.
Very low. Yeah, very low of you to put someone else down. That just means
you might be insecure about something,
Yeah.
Why are you saying that? Where is that coming from? Like, maybe it's something internally that they're struggling with, that they're projecting on you.
Yeah.
As for me, since I can remember, I had hair on my legs. I have hair on my arms. I have, I just got my upper lip waxed, but I had a little, little hair there. I got my eyebrows done too, but about 2 days ago, they were not like this. So I am just a very naturally more hairy person. Naturally, that's the word, naturally. Like, it is just something that it's in our genes. Like, we are just naturally more, we grow more hair than darker hair, more coarse than other people. As regards to how it affected me, to be honest, I did not care. I didn't shave my legs until 8th grade year, and that was only because I had to I didn't have to for a dance, but like I wanted to because I just wanted them to like look super clean. But it was on me. It was never pressure by like the students or anything. And then I remember and even in high school, I grew all that hair back by the time from 8th grade to high school. So my legs were hairy again. And I would go to school in the shorts. I didn't care. I never touched my arms, but I would hear girls say, like, they would complain about their arms, and it would be like, do they think my arms are super hairy? I didn't realize people didn't have hair on their arms until someone pointed it out. But then by that point, I was just like, well, I was born like this, so like, I don't know, like, I do, when I was younger, someone said that, my arms looked like a gorilla, because like of the hair on them. But and I do remember, I guess that little bit did. I was just like, but that was a thing. It happened for like a day. I remember thinking after that, I was like, oh, well, I guess so. I don't know. It must be true. I don't know. Like, it didn't really affect me. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. But I know that's not the case for many people. And yeah, there is that little, you know, bullies are gonna be bullies, and someone's always gonna have something to say. But so, at this point in your life, how do you cope with your emotions in a healthy manner? Or do you have a healthy way? Or do you feel there's things you can do better? Or
I think I'm like really in the process of working on that. I don't really know how to cope with my feelings sometimes. Like sometimes I'll joke about it, you know, just to throw it out there. Sometimes I'll joke about it. But I feel like I have to surround myself with people or I won't be okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm working on it.
Yeah, and that's a process that can take years. It can take, you know, it's not like I said, not something that happens overnight. But the fact that you are working on it and you're acknowledging the fact that you're in that process. You're not just shutting down. And that's sometimes all it takes is just admitting, yeah, I am working on it, and that's okay, because no one has it figured out. For me, I just, like you said, surround yourself with people that are gonna uplift you, and surround yourself in environments that are gonna encourage you. And I don't know, just you want to be surrounded by people that are going to help you become better. And so I think that's the most important thing. Is it's not something you have to fight alone, or it's not something that you have to deal with alone. Even if you feel like, oh, someone doesn't care, there's someone out there who does. And I wish people knew about, because I'm doing research for my part-time job, and I'm doing them for mental health resources. And I didn't even know, as I'm researching, I'm finding out about all of these resources that are free to students, to youth. And I was like, I didn't even know these were out there. So I think also it's just, I wish more people knew about the resources that they had to them at the tip of their finger, you know? And why don't people know about these, you know? But yeah, that was our take on our own self journey with social media, our mental health, and you guys gotta look on what that's like for us. And thank you again for helping me with this and being willing to be vulnerable and open to a not easy conversation. And thank you for listening and just kind of having open ears to what we have to say and our perspective on this. Yeah, thank you guys. Bye.